10 years ago, I didn't live here. 10 years ago, I didn't have this. 10 years ago, I was 41. Ooh, those halcyon days of my 40s. 10 years ago, I didn't have him. 10 years ago, I had my unfortunately day. Exactly 10 years ago today, I, after 3.5 years of doing and throwing GP practices, hospital appointments, cameras inserted into orifices in my body I never imagined you could have a camera inserted into, I was eventually sat down and I had my unfortunately day. A lot of people around the world have had an unfortunately day. Anybody who's watching this and has had an unfortunate day will know exactly what that means. But I'll give you a little bit of background. So when I was probably about 37, I started to feel a little bit unwell. I had these sporadic periods of intense pain around my pelvis, hips, groin, testicles, and problems with sexual function, ejaculation, gone off sex, which is not like me. Struggling to keep awake throughout the night without the need to get up constantly for a pee. And then it just dissipates, and obviously I go to the doctors and tell them I was not well, I was off work because I was that ill, it felt like I was dying. And then they'd say, take some antibiotics, sounds you got an infection. And then it'd happen again and I'd go back and they'd say, oh, you've got another infection, take some antibiotics. And then eventually somebody, after about a year of toing and froing, said, oh, you've probably got a diseased prostate, a thing called prostatitis. Prostatitis comes in two forms. It's either an infection that a strong dose of antibiotics will deal with, or it's chronic prostatitis. So obviously they went for the former of the two. We tried those, they made me very poorly, so I was off work for a while. And again, we went through this period of being ill. Referrals were made to the urology department at my local hospital in Leeds. And we proceeded to go through tests, flow tests, pressure tests, cystoscopy, which if anybody doesn't know is a camera that goes down into the urethra of a man. Women have them, but in the men it goes down the urethra, so yes, right down through the centre of your willy. It's about that big, size of a straw. And let me tell you something, it needed 4 nurses to hold me to that bed, because unfortunately they couldn't anaesthetise because I had an underlying, undisclosed, untreated, unrecorded heart issue. I haven't got the heart issue, but at the time I had. And they couldn't obviously put me to sleep for various reasons, obviously. Safety, one of them, not dying on the table, mainly. Cystoscopy saw, which was fascinating once they got it in and I stopped screaming the place down like a little boy. You could see the inside of my bladder. You could see a huge swelling at the bladder neck. And again, we went down the road, because of my age, it was prostatitis, which can make the prostate inflame because it's an infection, and infections in teeth, anywhere you get an infection, you get swelling. That's how it works. It goes hand in hand. Backwards and forwards, everything got really worse. In the last year, so 2014, I started employment for a large company that was very good to me. And in that first year of employment from September 2014, I had 4 months sick leave because I was extraordinarily ill. And the problems urinating were terrible. I mean, the shapes I had to throw to go to the toilet when I was out in public, standing at a urinal, because there's no way on God's green earth I was sitting on a public toilet seat. So the shapes were disco shapes. We're talking contortion, yeah, and just to get a little bit of pee out. And then there'd be some days, as I found out on a coach back from the hotel to the airport in Lanzarote, that I couldn't hold that pee and I had to get off because there was no toilet on the coach. So we ended up in a village in the middle of Lanzarote with 2 hours to departure, no bus, but God, I was relieved of a huge bladder full of pee. Now, I had on occasions told various GPs and the urologists that I suspected I had a serious health condition, but to no avail. It fell on deaf ears. That is a problem that the NHS needs to address, and I think they are trying to address it, and I'm going to, with my business, address it. A chance meeting with an estranged father at the beginning of September 2015 led me to discover that my father had this potentially deadly illness, and his brother had it and had it removed. And 3 days later, and this was the time scale, and it's an unbelievable time scale to some, but this was it. This was on a Friday. I do apologise, it was the following Tuesday. I had a standard appointment with the urology team just to run through where they were going next, what tests we could do, is there any more medicine they could give me, etc. During there, I disclosed the conversation with my estranged dad. Less than a week later, I was in hospital having a biopsy, and that was a biopsy of my prostate. And on the 26th of September, I received a phone call from the hospital to say I needed to come in as quickly as possible. And the 29th, which is 10 years to this date, with my then long-term partner, Dean, who was a rock, we entered a room with a doctor and a nurse. I was sat down, and the opening sentence was, "Unfortunately, Mr. White," and that goes through your body. One, for me, I knew what that sentence meant because I worked in medicine at the time that I was ill. That was my new role, and I'd seen that written down. I just knew from the heart of hearts, from the bottom of my soul, that it was what they told me it was, and it was prostate cancer. It was an end to 3.5 years of worry. So for me, it was an actual blessing. I wasn't at all upset about it. I wasn't blown away. It didn't knock me sideways. My long-term partner was very shocked, obviously. Some family members were shocked. Friends were shocked because I was only 41 when I got the diagnosis. And also the consultant was shocked because I was only 41, and it was a rare thing to have somebody at 41 be diagnosed with cancer. And what we were dealing with was a stage 2 Gleason score 7 cancer that had gone undetected through various MRIs and the old rubber glove finger up the rectum test, the digital rectal examination, we'll call it, because my prostate was growing inside, my cancer was growing inside the prostate, which is not the common process for a prostate cancer. It generally grows on the exterior, so obviously that's why they do the digital rectal examination, to feel for unevenness on the prostate. So they rub the finger around the prostate, and obviously an MRI scan wouldn't pick that up because it's looking for irregularities. But the biopsy picked it up, and it was that chance meeting. Now, the instant response was, how are we going to deal with this? Well, follow for more, because it was within 2 weeks of today's date that the treatment I opted for began. And the rest of my life changed forever from today. In a good way, because cancer doesn't mean it's the end of your life. It can also mean the beginning of a new life, depending how you look at it.